morning and welcome to the Carmiece Graves Show. Get ready to get great information on knowing your rights on estate planning, bankruptcy, divorce, alimony, and much more. Now for today's show, here's attorney Carmiece Graves.
Welcome to the Carmiece Graves Show. Thank you so much. It's Carmiece T. Graves. I'm in the building. I got the mic. I'm feeling right. It's a wonderful day. So today's show, I want to talk about, annually, I always make sure that I spend some time, around the Father's Day holiday, kind of making sure that I am addressing father's rights, because I have a lot of male clients, a lot of interested dads, and there's a myth out there sometimes, and we're going to talk about it, whether, my views, whether the court biases their decisions against fathers, and whether they prefer mothers over fathers when it comes to custody rights. We're going to get into that, and kind of my views on that, my experiences with that, how that has rolled out in my practice here in Maryland and Washington, D.C., and they're not the same. There is a distinction between Maryland and D.C. and how the courts look at those factors. And then also, there is a scam alert that I want to make sure that my women are aware of, because I'm seeing this left, right, and center. It's scam alert! Scam alert! So I said, I got to talk about this on the radio. Scam alert! I'm going to give y'all a tea on what's going on in these streets so that you can be aware, you can be informed, and you can make sure that your friends, family, and loved ones are aware. And it's a kind of a tricky situation because it's dealing with relationships. So, all right, so how are you guys feeling out there? I'm feeling wonderful. I missed you last week. Anytime that, I'm out of the studio, I am in court, battling, doing the representing clients and making sure their rights are vindicated. So let's start. Where we're going to start? Let's start with scam alert, because that's fun. Let's start with scam alert. So what I'm seeing is this trend. It's still going on, these sham marriages. Sham marriages. Now we all want love, and if it comes in any shape, form, or fashion, we're open to it. But women, y'all have got to be aware of the energy you're putting out there. Don't be too quick. Don't be too desperate. Don't be too wanting too quickly. Because some of these men needing papers. Okay? I'm going to tell you, being a U.S. citizen, you guys don't appreciate how wonderful it is being in the United States. Even though we have all these problems, even though, you may feel that the administration is sending our country to the hell in the handbasket, I mean, it's relative. We still can work, we can make money. Other places, it's just, life is difficult, life is hard. So to get into the U.S. is, the promised land. And what we're finding and what I'm seeing is, and here's the part that I want you to be careful of. Here's the scam. So, and I picked up on this because I had a case where a woman got with a foreigner, and they were in a relationship, and the relationship didn't work out. And I know usually, and I'm not an immigration attorney, but I know usually they gotta stay married for a certain period of time so they could go ahead and apply for the green card, right? But I found that this situation was interesting. She busted the scam up, like, okay, I thought this was real. It's not real. It's really all about your papers. Boom, let's move on, Get us separated. Let's file for the divorce. Now, I was curious because I thought maybe the person would organically just relax, be separated, because a lot of people are separate, they're married, they're not living together, husband and wife, and later on they'll go ahead and get the divorce. It's Maryland traditionally, without mutual consent, you got to be separated for a year anyway, and I'll talk about that again, mutual consent, because people, and that's what threw me. I'm like, there's mutual consent. If you could have just asked her to get the divorce, and she obviously would have obliged, and you guys could have gotten a mutual consent divorce. So a mutual consent divorce is, you don't have to be separated anymore. No one has to move out. All you have to do is have a written agreement that all issues regarding alimony, if they're kids, child support, custody, and if there's any marital property, have been resolved. You have to write that down. Both people have to sign it. It can be very simple. It doesn't have to be an elaborate agreement. It can be real simple, couple lines, right? And if you both sign this agreement, and get it signed, you can get a divorce without the waiting period. Mutual consent gets rid of the 1 year waiting period, and the other person doesn't, as long as each county is different in Maryland, I will say, and I'll talk about DC. Some counties, if there are children involved, they require both parties to show up. If there are no children involved, both parties don't need to show up, meaning that all you got to do is get that paper signed, file it, do what you got to do, and you can be in court by yourself getting a divorce. And the other person was like, yeah, whatever, I'm not showing up, kick rocks, move on. And you get your divorce, and you're good. So I'm thinking, why not do it like this? And here's the scam alert. Be careful if you find yourself in this budding, new, wonderful romance, right? And he's professed that he loves you and loves you and loves you and nobody else but you. Be careful about any domestic violence claims. Be careful about any domestic violence claims. If you find yourself in this new budding relationship and all of a sudden it's tumultuous, someone's trying to move and get a protective order against you, defend that protective order with your life. For one, you don't want a judgment, right? Also, and I'm going to tell you why, the other part that this comes into is the building of the case that there is some violence, that there's some domestic violence or physical abuse that occurred in the marriage. What I'm finding out is that will cut down this waiting period. So you could get married, get divorced before this waiting period for your marriage to vest, before immigration, and then you can go in and say, well, I had to get out because the person was abusing me. So the case I was dealing with, the husband, who was the foreigner, claimed that this woman was physically abusing him, like it was vicious and abusive conduct. And I'm like, why would you claim that? You could have adultery, or you could have mutual consent. And then I realized that this was needed so that he could go ahead and still vest and use the marriage, to support his claim for his immigration status. So again, watch out for that. Watch out for getting into these quick marriages. Watch out for these early proposals. Watch out for all that. And then watch out then for the claim for the domestic violence. Don't be violent. Don't do anything. Don't put your hands on anybody. If you gotta go, go. But that's what I'm seeing, this little trend now. So the game has increased. The game has become more sophisticated. So watch out, because we went to court, it was ridiculous. He's like, oh, she hit me in my head. She hit me in my head. The judge was like, man, did you hit him in his head? She was like, no, I did not hit him in his head. And I'm like, look, we're just going to do this through mutual consent, and I got that sorted for her. But watch out for that. Just watch out for these Prince Charmings coming out of nowhere, professing love and wanting to move in really quickly, get married really quickly. Just watch out for that, because it doesn't really happen like that, okay? Get out of this fairy tale book story stuff when it comes to relationships, and be aware. And it's difficult when you're the friend or family member, because when it comes to relationships, you can't tell nobody about their relationship. You know what I mean? So you just kind of want to put the information out there. Make sure they're aware. Watch out for anyone trying to catch you up in any domestic situation. It'll come short thereafter. Watch out for when they just disappear and then show back up right before the interview with immigration. Come on now, ladies, get smart now, okay? All of a sudden you want to make up, know when that date is, know when you signing papers real quick, and it's not about papers. Come on now. Love is within. There's an infinite source of love, and it starts from in here. Okay, so that's what I wanted to make sure that is out there in the community, because it's not right. It's not fair. You feel used, feel abused. And people, when they're planning their scams, it's just a matter of a need. They really need to make this happen. I'm like, just put it out there. I mean, whatever. But I'm not going to get into being complicit in a scam. We're going to put that aside. So let's talk about, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. But each year I want to go through, because I have male clients, and sometimes they want to know whether there's a bias before the court when it comes to custody and children. Do the courts always award the mother of the kids? Does the court always award the mother of the children? As a father, do I have any rights? And I'll say absolutely Unequivocally, yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Now, here's the caveats. Now we got to go through the caveats. And let me tell you how sometimes it could look like there is a bias. And let me tell you how that unfolds. So first off, now, listen. When we're dealing with babies that are under the age of 1, okay, why are we in court already? Okay, that's a little millennial stuff. Little millennials be, come on, y'all gonna have to make it. You know, these oops babies, y'all gonna have to make it. Y'all gonna have to make 24 months, 36 months. Come on, get this baby stabilized in the world. When you're dealing with a nursing baby, a baby under 1, do you know how uncomfortable it is for the court to be like, oh, come on. The woman says she breastfeeding. She ain't breastfeeding. The baby on formula. We don't want to be in the middle of these disputes. And I think in that situation, when we're dealing with what they call the tender years, they're getting away from it. But when you're dealing with that situation, yeah, you got to give mom a little bit on that. You got to give mom a little bit on that. But you got to take some responsibility that, we in court before the baby done made 12 months. So y'all going to have to take some responsibility on that. So I'm going to say in that situation, you really could be going against a little bit of preference to mom and a nursing baby. Now, let's move on as baby gets a little bit older. That's a short amount of time. So I would say in that scenario, here's the key thing. Here's the key thing that you guys have to be really aware of. When there's custody dispute between mom and dad, the court cares about this. They're going to be looking at their decision through the lens of what's in the best interest of the children or child involved. They're like, look, y'all don't have to get along. Relationships are voluntary. Y'all don't have to work this out, but y'all are going to have to co-parent. And clearly you weren't able to come up with a plan outside of my involvement, me, meaning the court. And now you've submitted your jurisdiction to me. You submitted your children to the court in terms of them being the manager now and the deciding entity regarding what's in their best interest. Now, didn't that sound a little crazy? Didn't that sound a little off? Like, you got a court making these decisions, but if you need the help and you need the support, because obviously there's a lot of dysfunction going on in this relationship emotionally between the parents, a lot of immaturity between the parents, and if a third party is needed, by all means, exercise those rights. And here's how this works. So the court is going to be thinking, okay, we have a destabilizing situation unfolding. My job is to stabilize this child as much as I can. So they're going to be looking at what was going on before you guys decided to call it quits. How was this unfolding between the parties? Because they want to have as much stability and consistency between the parents and the child. So here's how it goes. So they want to know, well, before y'all broke up, who was taking care of this child? Who was dropping the child off to school, to daycare? Which daycare was your child going to? They're gathering data as to what was going on and trying to maintain as much of that stability as possible and not have this child's life disrupted due to the breakup of the parents. So they want to know which school they were going to, want to know who is the primary care provider between the two parents, and they want to maintain as much of that as possible. So that information, if there are any special needs of the child, who was taking care, and see, this is what matters. If in fact that you were involved as the dad, that you were doing the pickups and the drop-offs before, they're going to help you maintain that role thereafter. All right, so we're going to check in with traffic and weather real quick, and we're going to continue on how to develop a strategy for fathers to maintain custody as much as you can. So be right back. Thanks for tuning into the Carmiece Graves Radio Show. We're going to check in with traffic and weather, and I'll be right back.
Washington, D.C.'s News Talk, 1450 AM WO and 95.9 FM.
Good morning. this traffic update is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Baltimore.
Facebook family, how you guys doing during this summer? All right, so fathers, I want to make sure that you do not feel disenfranchised during this process, because that's not the case. But if you kind of have said to mom, okay, we're going to have this structure in our family that you are primary provider, a caretaker of the kids, I'm going to go off and make the money, the court's going to kind of say, well, if that's what y'all had going on, that's what we're going to keep going on. So mom's going to keep being the primary custodian of the kids, and you're going to keep providing that child support money. So that's really the nut and bolts of how this thing is going to go. If you've always been the dad that has picked up the kids and made their lunches and took them to their, PT, and you went to the PTA meetings and you were involved, the court will say, okay, fine. That's what you've been doing? Let's keep doing that. So long as you're doing a good job. Welcome back to the Carmiece Graves radio show, and you are tuned in to my show where I share information and tips on estate planning, bankruptcy, and family law, because I practice here in DC and Maryland area. And today, annually as usual, throughout the year I always go over custody, but make sure this time of year during Father's Day that I tune in and make sure that dads feel that they have answer the question whether there's a bias against fathers when it comes to child custody in DC and Maryland. And where we left off and where I'd like to pick back up is what was going on in the household. You could have had a situation where you just said, like I said to the Facebook family, that hey, you take care of the kids and I'll go out here and make this money and make sure that we have the financial resources we need. If that's the case, that's going to continue. Mom's going to, as long as mom was doing a good job. Caveat that with that. Now, if mom was the primary caretaker of the children, but then, started using drugs and being irresponsible, court not trying to hear that. Okay, they're looking for what's in the best interest of the child, and if that parent, mom or dad, is not in the best interest of the child, and it's not a good idea for that child to be in the care and custody of that child on a day-to-day basis, that information will come in. So, if it's in fact that it's a case where dad was a really involved dad, and there's plenty of dads like that. There's plenty of great fathers that are the ones picking up the kids. They're making the lunches. They're doing the homework. They're dropping them off to the activities. They're taking them to the games. They're, involved with football. Maybe you have an athletic kid who is, doing basketball or football, and you're going to all the games. That's you. The court's going to respect that. But what happens is, and the thing that makes it look sometimes like there's a bias against dads is when you're separating, okay? When you're separating, it has to be feasible. So because dads always say, look, I want either shared custody or primary custody of the kids. Now, if you're going to go for primary custody, you're going to have to really establish to the court that you were the primary care provider. What is your work schedule? You're not going to come into the court and say that you're working 60 hours a week and you're the primary caretaker of the child. That's not going to work. What is the feasibility of your plan? Is it going to be convenient for the child? You're not going to have this child commuting around the Beltway 30, 40 minutes because now you've moved far away from mom and moved far away from the school and or daycare. That's not going to work. So you're going to have to be smart that if you want to stay involved and be involved and you guys separate, you're going to have to look at the situation as if, and I tell my men this, my male clients, the relationship is not over. It has changed. You have given notice on both sides. The intimacy between me and you, all bets are off in that department. But everything else regarding the children continues. And that's a mindset shift that I need both parties to understand. And that's something that I say more to my male clients than my female clients, because women always think it's going to continue. You're going to take care of these kids, okay? You lay down with me, now you got them to take care. So they're really adamant about you continuing your role. And it's a thing that it's innate for a woman. You're my provider. You're my protector. You were helping me. We're going to do this. And I'm not saying that the relationship demise is the fault of any one person. That's not possible. The expectation might be on top of crazy. Like, yo, chick, I ain't you crazy. If you wouldn't have acted crazy, we'd still be together. I acknowledge both parties can make a mess of a situation, but the expectation on how it's going to continue, I think that sits a bit more on mom's side, and dad tends to be a little bit more like, look, this ain't work out. I just want to be involved with my kids. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You know what I mean? Just have my kid at the door with a backpack. And, you can't really do it like that. Emotionally, that's going to be too hard most times for the other parent to just give up the child and you acknowledge them and don't validate them at all. So here's the note. The key thing is this relationship has changed. Okay? It has changed, but it's not over. So think about who you having babies with, because forevermore, y'all are in a relationship that might not be your intimate partner anymore, and that's a small part of the situation. Some people be like, nah, it ain't. But anyway, it is all the other stuff continues. So you're going to have to think about the child. Okay, if we're not living together anymore as man and woman in this relationship, where do you live? How far are you away from... Where do you live? Are you close to the school? Are you close to the activities? Are you involved with the doctor's appointments? Be involved, okay? If that's because so let me tell y'all, when you go to court, when we present cases before the court, we are dealing with these underlying biases that the court is listening for. They're listening for, and they're on both sides. So for moms, they're looking for the hater. They're looking for the bitter hater that all of a sudden now because y'all not together anymore, you can't see the baby. The baby ain't gonna be around that new chick. Who's that woman you got around? The court don't hear that. Like, look, honey, get your life and move on. This didn't work out. So you're gonna need a new man, but you're not gonna block visitation with the child and the father, because the court absolutely unequivocally appreciates the value of a child having both parents in their life, okay? Healthy parents, okay? Both healthy parents, okay? So they're looking on mom's side, they want to say, okay, she tripping because he done moved on, everything was fine until he got engaged, and now all of a sudden the baby can't come over. So they're looking for that one. So moms, be really careful. You go into court, I let him see our son. Let him see? Court be like, I'm going to show you who going to see what. Sir, what kind of custody do you want? You know what I mean? They're looking for that. On the male side, on the father's side, what they're looking for is all of a sudden pop up, super dad. You ain't been involved. You wasn't really involved like that. Mom was the one getting up in the middle of the night, dropping the baby off, doing all daycare, toiling away. You've been in visit dad. You know what I mean? You've been in visit. You ain't been nowhere near, nowhere around to be found. But all of a sudden, mom is filed for custody. And now you're afraid of that child support, and now you want to share custody. The court be like this, look here, Jack, what had you been doing? You could continue doing what you was doing in a bit. It might be if you was uninvolved, you might just be child support dad and visitation on the weekend. So you really shape this based on your true intent towards your children. So you're not going to come to the court and run a farce. We're trained to this. This is what we do. We see this day in and day out. It ain't nothing novel. It ain't nothing new. We know about the dad that, all of a sudden, he ain't been involved and now he wants shared custody. It's like, ha, 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 ha. Funny. Here's your child support award. Okay, see you, bye. Talking about child support real quick. So you got to set this up. You got to plan. You got to plan. And, if you want to be involved and remain involved, make sure that your life wraps around your children. Make sure your life wraps around that you and mom can co-parent, in a way that is most convenient for the child. So when you're thinking about where you're going to live, think about that child. How far am I away? Am I going to be able to pick them up and drop them off without them having a long commute? My work schedule, if I'm working 60 hours and climbing the corporate ladder, and that's what you got to do, all right, well, don't be mad at that child support award. Go ahead, mom got it. But make sure mom has what she needs, at least financially, because there's still emotional support that she needs, but at least give the money, you know? So that's what I would say about that. So it's all about, so what happens is, the reason why sometimes it may look like it's slighted towards mom is how these factors are not considered. So you guys were living together, doing the mother-father thing, and then it didn't work out, and then you moved. And y'all were living in Upper Marlboro, and you went ahead and moved to Gaithersburg. Done. That one factor alone, you're out. Even if you were doing day in and day out, and this child is going to school in Prince George's County, and now you done moved up to Montgomery County, you're dead. You lost it, you know? It's not going to work out right now, unless there's a complete shift in custody towards that, and you'd have to have a compelling case, and each case is different, and that's why you need to sit down and have a consultation with me, and we think about it. So I would say, if you're really concerned about custody, you've been a real involved dad, and you would be heartbroken if you did not remain the equal parent, or you want full custody, before you make a move, because y'all know long before you gonna make that move, you've been planning for that move, plan to have a consultation so that you can have me sit down with you and analyze the factors, because I've done it. Like, look, don't move this far, don't do this, don't do that, we got to do this, we got to do that, and boom, now we're ready. Now we're ready to bring the case. So you got to plan to bring your case. And one of the things is, don't just emotionally leave the relationship and be like, I'm trying to get as far away from that chick as I could. You know what I'm saying? I went far. I went all the way up to Baltimore. I didn't want to see her no more. Well, you left the kids behind too, you know? And if they're in school, the court's not going to say, change your school. So they're thinking about stabilizing, you know, what's going on with the kids. DC, very pro, you know, DC, dad involved. As long as dad comes to court and shows up and he's not crazy on drugs, they're definitely going to make sure, because they don't see enough fathers as is. So when dad steps up there and says, no, I want to be involved with my children's life, like in Maryland, they're going to be very happy to see both parents there and really encourage you to settle this yourselves, because they're like, look, I don't know your kid. You know, I'm not going to ever see this kid. So if you guys could really make a key, smart, wise decision amongst yourselves about your children, I think that would be best. But if you can't, I'll get it done. So that's my show today, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Thanks for tuning in. If you need me, get a consultation, call me. My information will play in a few seconds. And thanks so much for tuning in. And I'll talk to you guys next week on the Carmiece Graves Radio Show. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Carmiece Graves Show with attorney Carmiece Graves. To reach Attorney Graves, please call 240-573-7153. That's 240-573-7153. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday at 10 a.m. right here on WOL 1450 AM, where information is power.
Later.
Good morning, folks. Somerville Kirk. Here's the